From weekend getaways to extended road trips, California is full of places to explore. And for over 100 years, the Auto Club has been there to help. Our travel agents offer you expertise regarding destination information, trip planning and reservations, either in office, on the phone, or online. Across the state, throughout the country, or around the world. Through all life's travels, we're always with you.
Road Trip has been made possible by the Automobile Club of Southern California.
He's taking their picture in front of the fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada sign. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
Are you all visiting? Do you live here?
She's from London. From England.
Oh, wow. And you're from?
California.
California. That's where I'm from, Los Angeles.
Oh.
And what are you ladies doing here in Las Vegas?
We actually just finished shooting a Fire Girls calendar.
Ah, so you're calendar girls.
Yes. Yes.
And what did you think of Vegas?
Oh, we just got here actually.
So this is your introduction to Vegas?
Yes, we had to take a picture.
You know what? We just got here too.
Oh, good timing.
So
nice
we're all,
to meet you.
boy, this is exciting. Nice to meet you. Can we shake hands? Feel funny shaking hands. Hi. Nice to meet you. And your name?
Louise.
Wow, nice to meet you all. Have a great stay.
Oh, thank you. You too. It was very nice meeting you
wow,
guys.
what luck. You always meet interesting people when you come to Vegas. We've just gotten to Vegas, and this trip to Vegas is going to be a little different than your usual road trip to Vegas. Because what we're going to do here, you know, the slogan is, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Well, on this road trip, what happens in Vegas doesn't have to stay in Vegas. We'll be able to talk about it and share it with our family and friends, because we're here on a road trip to see a side of Vegas that's not on the Strip, that's not in a casino, that's not in a big show or a big fancy restaurant, or it doesn't have a lot of glitz and glitter connected with it. This is going to be the quieter, gentler side of Vegas. That's what we're here to see on this road trip. In fact, this is as close to the Strip as we're going to get the whole time we're here. We're leaving the Strip right now, and this wonderful historic "Welcome to Fabulous Las Vegas" sign, which has been here since the late 1950s and is iconic in its own way. We're leaving the sign, we're leaving the Strip, and we're heading to a quieter, gentler Vegas.
We're still in a picture with you with our own camera.
On a road trip. Now this, ladies, this could end up being the high point of the whole trip. You understand that, don't you?
Hope so.
Now, before we started our road trip, we did end up making one quick drive through the heart of the city, just to look at all the hustle and bustle, the big hotels and the casinos. And it's all there, as millions of Californians who visit Vegas every year know full well. But take a good look, because this is the last glitz and glitter you're going to see on this road trip. Because right away, things got very historic, very relaxed, and very mellow. Boy, things are peaceful and quiet, just the ripple of the running water here, and we look up at these beautiful, what are these, willows, Chris?
Willows and mesquite trees. This is real Las Vegas here.
Boy, I tell you what, this is the heart of old Las Vegas. You would never know that we are less than 2 miles from the most popular part of today's Vegas Strip, but we have come here to start our journey because this is it, right here. Explain to us why we're here and what this represents.
This is, as you say, the heart of Las Vegas. If it wasn't for this little flowing stream through history and the water it provided, nobody would have ever come to Las Vegas to live. Las Vegas wouldn't be here. I'm pretty sure Las Vegas would exist somewhere. It just wouldn't be here in southern Nevada, because without water, you can't live in the desert.
All right, what's the history of the water here? Because I had absolutely no idea of the connection between Vegas and water.
Well, the water's been flowing here hundreds, thousands of years, I guess. The first people to actually make note of it were Spanish caravans along the old Spanish Trail beginning in the late 1820s, and they knew it as the Vegas, which is a Spanish word that means meadows, and with meadows you have water.
Wait a minute, Vegas means the meadows, and the meadows were created right in this area by this water.
That's absolutely correct. And of course, in the days before all our modern conveniences and public water supplies, people traveling through the West would always be, their trails would go between water hole to water hole. And this particular spot was known as early as the late 1820s by people on the Spanish Trail.
But it was known even before that by the Native Americans, by the Paiutes who lived here for thousands and thousands and thousands of years because of this water.
Well, that's correct. We have records, information, artifacts that tell us the Indians have been living here for perhaps as long as 12,000 years. And the only reason that they could survive and everything they needed to survive was brought to them by this little creek flowing through Las Vegas. Without it, nothing, no vegetation, no trees, no animals coming down for food. It would have been a much different story.
Was it Las Vegas or Vegas? What does Vegas mean? What does Las Vegas mean?
Las Vegas is the modern term used for the city of Las Vegas. Originally, this area was known as Los Vegas, but often referred to as the Vegas, which Vegas was a common term used for the meadows, even by English speakers. Vegas referred to, they knew that they were talking about meadows. So Las Vegas is the modern appellation of the city, today's city.
So for hundreds of years, explorers, travelers, Native Americans, people coming anywhere in this part of the country knew Vegas as the place where they could stop for water.
Absolutely. And if there hadn't been this, they wouldn't have stopped here. They would have gone some other route, and Vegas would not exist today.
Well, now we're literally walking through the gates into the second chapter of Vegas history. And Chris, this is a very important chapter in the city's history.
Well, Huell, it's actually probably the single most important chapter, because right here on this spot was the first permanent structure built by non-Native Americans. A group of Mormon missionaries in 1855 built what we today refer to as the Old Fort.
This is the Old Fort, and that's where this park gets its name, because this park is called
the Old Las Vegas Mormon Fort State Historic Park.
Okay, so before this fort was built, the Native Americans were passing through here and going up to the high country to cool off in the summertime. The explorers and the settlers were passing through here, just getting water and moving on west. This was the first permanent, would you call it a settlement? It was just a fort, wasn't it?
Well, it was actually a Mormon mission. I mean, Brigham Young, the head of the Mormon church in Salt Lake, actually sent 30 men here to establish the Las Vegas mission. And they picked this spot obviously because there was water, as we spoke about earlier. There was water here, and when they needed water for everything from growing their crops to making their adobe to build the fort.
But I don't see any church. I don't see any mission. I don't see any, was this it?
Primarily, I mean, we've actually had to reconstruct some of the walls because a lot of the original adobe walls have melted, but it was a fort that was built to look like a fort with approximately 150 feet long on the side.
Were there any buildings in here?
We've done quite a bit of archaeological investigation here and haven't found a whole lot of evidence for actual structures within the walls of the fort.
So what did they do here?
Well, basically, they try to bring their religion to the local Paiutes living here in the valley, as well as service Mormon missionaries that were traveling back and forth from Utah to California.
Imagine being a missionary based out here in the middle of nowhere. This was it.
This was it.
Right here, and it didn't last very long, did it?
They were here just a little less than 2 years. Lots of various reasons for that. Number one is obviously, can you imagine living in Las Vegas or visiting Las Vegas without air conditioning? No sane person would come here if we didn't have air conditioning today. They didn't have that, so it was a very, very tough environment.
Okay, we have left the old Las Vegas Mormon Fort State Historic Park, which is located just a mile or two right off the strip in downtown Las Vegas. We've now traveled 10 or 12, maybe 15 miles out of Vegas. We're now technically in Henderson, Nevada. This is one of those communities that just bleeds right over into Vegas. And I've hooked up with an old friend of mine from California who's now out here heading up the Clark County Historical Museum. And Mark, we're standing in front of this wonderful building here. Now, at the Mormon Fort, we took Vegas history up until around 1900 when they were through the Mormon Fort, through the early ranching families. But this building sets the tone for the next chapter of the development of Las Vegas.
This building is why Las Vegas exists. This is a railroad cottage. The railroad is the reason that we even have a community of Las Vegas. When they were building the railroad, when William Clark, for whom Clark County is named, was building the railroad from Salt Lake City to Los Angeles, he needed a spot in the middle of the desert for water, for the railroad.
Wait a minute, water?
Water,
See, water keeps coming back.
That's what Las Vegas means. It means the meadows. This was a high water table area.
So the railroad came here because of the water.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's why everything happened
That's
here.
right, and that's why, you know, and you can imagine, if you're in the middle of the desert, if you've got a water source, that's where you go to. That's why the trails came through. That's why the railroad did.
All right, now what is this? What does this represent?
This is one of the original housing units that were built by the railroad. This happened between 1911 and 1914. They came in and built about 75 of these. Wow. And these were the first housing in Las Vegas that was built by the railroad for their workers. There were other houses that individuals built, and a lot of people lived in tents in that because the community came into being in 1905. But by 1911, they needed housing for workers, and so they built about 75 of these. Most of them are gone. This one we picked up from downtown Las Vegas and moved it out here. Oh, yeah.
Wow, that's lucky to have that still here.
It's the most intact example that exists anywhere in the county, anywhere in the valley here. And it allows us, you know, to talk about the railroad. That's why we existed here.
But isn't that interesting? It was the railroad and the workers and all the things that happen when a railroad comes through a town that started this town.
That's right. That's
so
why
what
we
did it
existed.
Start? Get a little main street? Get a
few... They came in, they subdivided the area and sold off the lots, had a big auction here in May of 1905, started getting people in. The railroad started building up, and this was where also the railroad had their repair shops in that until the early 20s when there was a big strike here. And the railroad decided that they were going to kill the town, so they moved the shops up to Caliente. But it didn't kill the town. The town kept going because the next thing that we had here was Boulder Dam. Was the building of Hoover Dam, which became Boulder Dam, which became Hoover Dam. That brought in all kinds of federal money in the late 1920s and early 1930s.
And this is representative of that.
Yes, this is the original Union Pacific Depot from Boulder City. When the railroad was no longer going to use it, they were going to tear it down. And we said, no, don't tear it down. We moved it out here. This was the first building at the county museum here.
So this represents the Boulder Dam segment of the growth of Vegas, because all of those we're talking about, aren't we thousands of workers who moved into this area just to build the dam?
If you can think about that, this is the early 30s now, when we're in the middle of the Depression. People are looking for work anywhere they can. And because of the people that were building the dam, they didn't want those workers to be housed over in Las Vegas because, well, that wasn't a nice place. So they built the new community of Boulder City, and it was a federal reservation. It was actually run by the federal government.
But the workers, even though they were living in Boulder City, which wasn't that far from Vegas, this whole thing together helped invigorate this little community of Las Vegas.
It's what kept us alive. It's why it continued to exist. And once the dam was finished, then you got into World War II and you had the federal government coming back again. And that's when they built the air base here. So that's why we existed all the way through the end of the war. In fact, Henderson came into being because we had a magnesium plant here, and we have one of the original houses from Henderson.
It's so interesting how it's all connected together. And what's really interesting is that it all really continues to go back to water.
Absolutely. That's why we had the magnesium plant here, because we had the water source nearby.
From the old railroad workers' housing, circa 1912, we now move to the 30s, the motor court cabin. This was the beginning of the hotel motel industry.
That's exactly it. And what we try to do with our Heritage Street here is talk about different eras of how people lived in southern Nevada. You know, and a lot of folks, when they came in here in the 30s, they couldn't buy a house immediately. They didn't have enough money, so they lived in the motor courts. And motor courts were basically like detached motels. You'd drive right up to your motor court cabin. There's a couple of beds inside. There was always an outhouse somewhere. Wow. You know, but many people started out living in places like this during the 30s.
Is this original?
Oh yes.
Oh,
yeah, we don't
gosh.
know which motor court it came from.
But it came from Vegas.
But
in
it came
the 30s.
from Vegas, yes.
And look right over here. Here's the other chapter in that evolution.
This is
the RVs,
yeah.
the trailers.
Well, this is post-war. This is 1947, 1948. What happened then was, with the end of the war, we started getting into our whole tourist industry. We started building all of the casinos and all of that, really promoting the area. A lot of people came in here to work. Again, we didn't have any housing, so we had a lot of trailer parks being created, and this is one that came from up on Boulder Highway here, from one of the old trailer parks, and it dates back to 1947, and it is actually a trailer that somebody lived in.
Motor courts and trailer parks.
Absolutely. You know,
very important ingredients in the development of Vegas.
Well, because we kept going through boom and bust cycles. You know, you'd boom, a lot of people would come in, there wasn't enough housing. Once you get enough housing, then people move out of these. But then you get another boom, another whole rash of people coming in.
Now this takes the cake, because tell everybody what we're looking at right now.
This is the 1966 Candlelight Wedding Chapel. It was built down on the Strip at the corner of Riviera and Las Vegas Boulevard.
In the 60s.
Oh yes, oh yes. But it's an original wedding chapel.
So when is a 1966 wedding chapel history?
It's history because it was based on the 1947 Little Chapel of the West, which is probably the best known wedding chapel in Las Vegas. And we wanted to talk about the wedding industry here, because it's an industry. This building is built to be a prop. It is not a fancy building. It was not meant to be a church. It's a prop, a backdrop for weddings. And a lot of people got married here. We've got our famous people that got married here too. I mean, Bette Midler was married here. Michael Caine was married here.
You're kidding.
No, I'm not.
And this was part of a developing industry in Vegas as well. When did this whole getting married in Vegas thing start?
It really started in the 30s, but it took off in the early 50s.
This is history. Let's stand out of the way, because this is history. It deserves to be here in the Clark County History Museum, because the wedding chapel industry was and still is a huge part of the economy and the social fabric of Vegas. It's being restored to its original grandeur and will soon be open to the public. Okay, as our tour continues now, we've come inside the museum building itself. And Mark, this is where we're getting in trouble. You're getting me in trouble, because you know the whole premise of this road trip.
Yes.
Is that we were going to come to Vegas, and yet we were going to stay away from casinos, from gambling, from stage shows, from all the obvious things that people think of when they think of Vegas. You have already taken us to a wedding chapel. We were not supposed to be going to wedding chapels. Now, look where he's brought us. This is not on the itinerary. This is gambling. This is casino. This is slot machine.
This is our history. This is part of what we have to talk about. This is what makes Vegas and Clark County what it is. I mean, we're the only place. I mean, we're Mecca for gamblers.
Well, I know that.
Yeah, but you can't play these. I mean, this is an exhibit.
This is an exhibit.
This is an exhibit, so you don't have to worry. You can't play them.
Has gambling always been legal in Vegas?
No. Actually, gambling was legal when Vegas was started, and then it became illegal in the teens, in the 19-teens, and then in 1931 became legal again.
Because I'm looking over your shoulder at the Arizona Club.
Absolutely.
That looks like that was way back in time.
Oh yeah, this is about 1908. So
there was gambling here when the railroad came in.
Yeah.
Then the religious?
Well, the whole state made gambling illegal. It was part of the whole progressive movement, and we wanted to make sure that we didn't allow for all these evil things that people do. And then in 1931, the idea
slid
was,
back.
Yes. Well, the idea was we wanted the tax revenue.
Ah, it's all about money.
That's right. It was
Look at
tax
this. It
revenue.
just gets even, it gets better or worse, whichever way you want to think of it. We got a roulette wheel here from about 1935. We got a slot machine from 1933. Here's one automatic 21 from 1965.
One of the first electronic machines that actually used a real deck of cards.
Wow.
But it was electronic, so you weren't actually handling the cards, but you could see the cards turning over in it.
I bet people love this exhibit, don't they?
Oh, they find it interesting. Yeah, they want to know a little bit about the history because, you know, whenever you go somewhere, you tend to think of it always being the way it is now.
Yeah.
And this gives you a chance to see how this part of our heritage, just like with the wedding chapel, how that has made us a unique location. It's part of our heritage. And you can't, you know, that's the thing. It's history. And we tell all of our history.
You can't be judgmental about it.
No.
One way or the other. It is what it is.
Exactly. And we've even got a hands-on area if you want to try a chuck-a-luck or a wheel of fortune. You can try your hand at turning the dice over, see whether you can win.
All proceeds going to the Historical Society.
Actually, to the museum, absolutely. Nothing that you can try pays out, I can tell you that.
Okay.
Okay, Huell, this is a chuck-a-luck. The idea is turn it over once and get 3 of a kind.
Didn't make it that time. Can I turn it again?
You can turn it again.
Didn't get it that time. Can I turn it again?
You can turn it again.
You understand all of this is being done in the name of historical research.
Absolutely, nothing but.
Didn't get 3 of a kind that time either.
Should teach you something about gaming, too.
Yeah, you don't win very much. Now, I really enjoyed visiting both the old Las Vegas Mormon Fort State Historic Park and the Clark County Museum. Learned a lot at both of them. But next, we traveled a couple of miles to visit a museum that is truly one of a kind. Very Vegas, very atomic. Okay, here we go. Miss Atomic Bomb 1957. There she is right there. You're not Miss Atomic Bomb 1957. You are...
I'm Dawn Barlow Ham. I'm the Program Manager of Marketing and Development at the Atomic Testing Museum in Las Vegas.
Boy, that was a mouthful. The Atomic Testing Museum, because we have just come from a very traditional history museum here in Vegas. This is a little off the beaten track because it's talking about a part of Las Vegas history that, people must have known about it when it was going on out here.
They did, actually, and the hotels and casinos took that opportunity to really kind of promote this and draw tourism here to Vegas.
So they were promoting the fact that atomic testing was going on how far out of Vegas?
About 65 miles outside of Las Vegas. And Lee Merlin here, Miss Atomic Bomb 1957, she's an example of that promotion. She was a Copa girl, actually, at the Sands Hotel. And
they really had
yes.
a Miss Atomic Bomb?
They had several, actually. She's the most famous.
And was this cloud really there? Or was
this was actually made from cotton balls.
And she actually wore
front of her
that?
bathing suit. Yes, and it was a photo shoot they did out in the desert. There was a Mr. Atomic Bomb as well. But we don't have his picture.
Well, that might be a good idea that we don't. But what's interesting is that back then, in the early days, there really wasn't a downside, was there? People were, this was seen as a gimmick to help promote getting people here.
Right, and our national nuclear program was really a source of pride for Americans at that point because people saw it as the way that we won the Second World War.
Yeah.
So it was really important.
This was a way to promote tourism.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, and you're still promoting tourism in Vegas with the atomic weapons because you've got an atomic museum.
Yes.
And here we go. We're going to leave. What was her name again?
Lee Merlin.
Lee Merlin, Miss Atomic Bomb 1957. And we're going into the museum entrance of the Atomic Testing Museum here in Las Vegas. First thing you see when you walk in here is this big picture of, that was the whole test site center, right?
That was a portion of the Nevada test site, where they conducted a lot of the underground tests.
Now, this was how far out of Vegas?
About 65 miles.
So did anybody ever really go out there?
Well, the public was not allowed
Yeah.
to go out there, just the people that worked at the test site. It was
Could you
restricted.
see the explosions? We're standing here looking at a lot of explosions. Could you see stuff like this
They could
from Vegas?
Often they could see the mushroom cloud when they were doing atmospheric testing. They could see it from the old strip.
And what did they think? They didn't try to hide from it? They just went out?
No, they were excited. They dragged chairs outside, and people would wake their children up to get up early in the morning to
You
go
are
out and see this.
kidding.
The sky would light up, and then they'd see the cloud. Yeah.
So the
Very
whole
exciting.
sky around Vegas would light up.
Yeah. Yes.
Here we go. We're walking through the museum. There are all kinds of exhibits here, all kinds of twists and turns, and lots of people here. You have a good crowd of people coming through here.
Yes, we do. Our numbers are growing.
How do
every day.
people find out about this? Is this part of the...
You know, we do a lot of advertising in the magazines and things around Vegas. We have an internet presence too. We're on the radio.
And you have people of all ages.
Yeah, we
people
certainly
who
do.
don't know anything about the atomic chapter in Vegas history.
That's true. We have a lot of young people that come to the museum, and it's a great opportunity to teach them about this period of American history.
Now, didn't you tell me that this exhibit right over here is everybody's favorite?
I think so. The pop culture exhibit really shows how the atomic age infiltrated all levels of our lives back in the 1950s and 60s. I mean, we have mushroom clouds on cereal boxes, and it was children's toys had the atomic theme. So it's pretty pervasive.
This captures my attention. 53 Wildcat Echo. What does that mean?
It's a high school yearbook from here in Las Vegas, and as you can see, they were very proud of the atomic bomb and the program here, and so they use that to adorn the front of their yearbook.
So
right
the
here.
Vegas Wildcats of 53 put this on the cover of their yearbook.
Yeah, they were very, very proud of this, of the presence of the test site here.
And here's a little book labeled Atomic Cocktails.
Yes, we actually, until we ran out of copies, we sold them here in the museum store, and they're very popular. Whenever we have parties here at the museum, we make atomic cocktails for the guests.
What's in an atomic cocktail?
They didn't tell me, but they're really good.
Okay, moving on from the atomic pop culture exhibit, we're now getting into well, this is a more technical part of the museum, and I'm not sure what this is, but it has a place of prominence, so it must be important.
This is a rocket nose cone, and what they would do is actually drop this into the mushroom cloud, and it acted like a little vacuum cleaner, and it would suck up the debris that was in the cloud, and they would take it back and test it to find out what was actually in the cloud.
Who saved all of this? How did you look over here? You've got a whole museum full of technical. This looks like an actual bomb itself.
It's actually the casing for a projectile. It's
Right.
not. It's not the bomb.
No, I understand that, but I mean, somebody saved all of this.
A lot of these items came from the test site. A lot of them came from private donations and things of that nature.
Yeah, you
People that
probably
were.
got some stuff from the government too, didn't you?
Yes.
All right, now we're moving on down into, this looks like something out of the laboratory of a mad scientist.
This is actually just one of the diagnostic tests that they did back in the 1950s. And after they retrieved all of the information from it, it was actually sealed up in a little cavern. And 40 years, 30 years later, they went back in and retrieved it and brought the items here to the museum.
So you really have a cross-section of the history of what happened here.
We do. We have a wide collection, and it's very diverse.
From above ground atomic testing, we are now going underground
Yes.
for the testing, because this is very interesting. At some point, they decided, oh wow, look at all of this. They decided to quit testing above ground.
Yes.
Those were the nuclear test ban treaties
Right,
for
1961.
atmospheric testing.
Exactly. Then they moved the testing underground.
So this whole section is about underground testing. And what in the world is this? Look at this thing.
This is a replica of a diagnostic rack. Now, this is actually what would have been sent 1,000 feet underground. They would drill these enormous holes and put the whole rack down there. And actually, if you step over here, this is where the nuclear device would fit.
Oh, look.
And then this would go downhole.
And then it would explode.
Right.
So this is probably one of the few of these left. All the others disintegrated with the explosions.
Right, and actually what would happen is after the test was conducted, they would just seal up the hole. They would cover it over.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. This one picture has like 30 tests. These were all underground tests?
They're craters from the tests, correct. There were over 828 underground tests.
Wait a minute. Over 820 underground tests?
Yes. That's not counting the atmospheric testing.
How many of those were there?
100 or more. There were over 920 some tests.
Really?
At the test site, yes.
Now we've come inside the
Ground Zero Theater.
Oh my gosh, that is a... And the theater, we're actually kind of shaken in our seat. Oh! Oh, this is powerful in many ways.
In the 1950s, people watched these tests out in the distance. They sat on wooden benches out in the open, and this was going on 6, 7 miles from where they were sitting.
Could they feel it like we're feeling it right now?
Even more so.
This really, look, there are people watching it.
Yes.
So they would just put goggles on.
There was never a detonation that you weren't scared. You get to the countdown, and when it goes 10, 9, 8, every thought you can think of goes through your head.
You stand looking out into the distance with goggles on, and all of a sudden the sky lights up, everything lights up. And once the light dims a little bit, you can take your goggles off and you see the shock wave coming across the desert.
So you watch this wall of dust, very thin dust, racing across the desert at you, and of course when it gets to you, that's when you hear the first noise from the explosion.
To see it here, you recognize that it's a very, very terrible weapon of war. And when you see one, you understand what it can do and why it must never be used, but you understand the value of having it and having your enemies know that you're not afraid to use it if you want.
Boy, this is powerful.
Yes, people really love this.
Really is. So this is kind of a documentary that explains the power of the atomic bomb.
Yes.
Look at this. You're just enveloped by it when you're here. There's a whole case of Geiger counters, and seeing all these Geiger counters lined up like this, in a way, this is kind of maudlin. It's kind of dark in a way. How do people react when they come in this museum?
You know, we have people that come in with many different perspectives and perceptions. Our role here is to preserve and interpret the history of the test site itself and the nuclear programs that went on there. But you certainly do have people that come that have, you know, a very negative reaction to this and everything that went on. And so we try to represent all sides.
Well, yeah, you're not really here to promote anything. You're here to just talk about this chapter of history, which for better, or let's just say better and worse,
right,
happened here.
But there are so many different things that came out of the nuclear weapons testing program, advances in nuclear medicine and nuclear energy. So there are positives that did come from this. But we can't escape the history of the things that occurred there as well. And this is representative of the technological advances, really, that came out of that. And they come in the front door, I think, with maybe some preconceived notions, and by the time they're heading out, it's really brought up some questions for them and answered some questions.
Yeah.
It's an interesting process, and they love it. We get comment cards all the time.
Yeah.
People telling us how much they really enjoyed it and saw so much more than they expected to see.
Well, it was and continues to be a very interesting and a very important chapter in Las Vegas history.
International history, yes. Certainly.
International history. Okay, by now we'd done the museum thing. We'd been to 3 of them, and it was time to get out and see some countryside. And our next destination, right outside Vegas, took us through some of the most beautiful, most magnificent, downright breathtaking natural scenery I have ever seen. Everybody had told us we had to visit this place. I don't know what I'd expected, but believe me, this park exceeded in size and beauty anything I'd imagined. Boy, this is beautiful and a real surprise, Mark. I had always heard about this place, but seeing it this morning with the morning light shining against the red rocks, this is breathtaking when you see it for the first time. Introduce yourself to everybody, and more importantly, let everybody know where we are right now.
Well, you're at Red Rock Canyon National Conservation Area, so welcome. And my name's Mark, and I'm the manager here.
Now, we're just right outside Vegas. It took us 30 minutes to get here from the Strip, from downtown Vegas.
It's shocking to most people to step outside the casino and see that there's a natural world surrounding the valley of Las Vegas and all that buildings down there.
And that's the big point, isn't it? That you get a lot of visitors here who are just as surprised as I am this morning.
Thousands and thousands a week come out here and just look at that big escarpment of mountains right there and these red rocks behind me, and say, wow. And you don't really need to explain it. It's just kind of shocking and startling to everybody that there's something this close to the city, and the millions of people that come in throughout this city and that live here, and a lot of them come out here for the first time, and just that's all they can say is wow.
Now, did they come out here to look, to hike, to what?
Well, that's
get away from the casinos?
Well, all of that. That's the beauty of the National Conservation Area. It's got all these opportunities for mountain biking, horseback riding, hiking. There's hundreds of miles of trail. You can see some right down here. Wilderness areas up in the mountains where there's pine trees and mountain goats and mountain lions and everything in between. From somebody who just wants to camp, we got a great campground, bringing an RV or a tent camping or hiking. If you got a limited amount of time or you're not able to get out into the mountains, we've got a great 13-mile drive that's like an interpretive auto route that you can drive around and see all the scenery from the car. There's little stops you can get out and take short walks, and it's just a great introduction to the canyon.
That sounds perfect for what we've got time to do today, so we're going to start off right now.
It makes a big 13-mile long loop that goes up along the base of the mountains. It gives you a great introduction to the place.
First stop on our scenic tour, and we find the people having their pictures made. You all are visiting Vegas, right?
Yes, we are.
So how did you get out here? What was the idea?
Well, we got married.
Oh, congratulations.
Last Friday. So this is our honeymoon. So she wanted to come out and see the desert. So we're here.
So you got married in Vegas?
No, we got married in Toronto, Canada. We're Canadian.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
You got married in Canada and came to Vegas on your honeymoon?
Yeah.
Correct.
Well, congratulations.
Thank
and what do
you
you think about this?
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's really
It's a
beautiful.
surprise, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
It is. I didn't expect it to look like this.
Yeah. They're all tourists, and they're all out here from downtown Vegas experiencing the natural side of Vegas. Give us a thumbs up. We got a jogger.
time, buddy.
He's on time.
Yeah, it's a beautiful course. Best course in the world.
So you got everything from joggers to tourists to rock climbers to look at this, and we're still on the first stop of our scenic loop driving tour. I don't think I've ever seen anything as magnificent and as wide open as this.
You see trails like this, there's hundreds of miles of trails, bicycle trails, horse trails, foot trails, anything from just a flat walk across open country like this to climbing up those vertical mountains.
So you mean if I wanted to right now, I could just take right out across this open space here?
There's crisscrossing trails and loops that just go out into the desert or into these washes and canyons or back into those canyons. There's actually waterfalls in some of those canyons.
Wow. And I love the stratification.
It
the
just
colors,
makes it so
it really
scenic, yeah.
pops out.
People don't, people think of the desert as just gray, just barren, and there's so much color here. And the winter colors is even more vibrant. It's kind of a smoggy day today. But
do you have snow up here?
Oh, this last winter we had a 30-year record snowfall. Everything here was covered with snow.
He's pedaling his bike.
That's right, got to do it.
So do you do this on a regular basis?
Yeah, maybe 3 times a week.
Are you a local?
Yeah, part-time local.
You're wearing me out. Locals all know about this place, don't they?
I think so. Yeah. What's the story?
Just on what's outside of Vegas other than the Strip and the casinos.
Well, this is the scenery. You got to come and see this. There's a whole other world besides the neon.
He said it best, there's another whole world beside the neon, and we are right in the middle of it right now. Okay, we spotted them over here on the side of the road. What's up?
Good morning.
Where
How
are you
are
all from?
Connecticut.
So what are you doing? You come out here to Vegas to have fun, and then you decided to get out of town?
Actually, we came here for the climbing.
So you came here for this?
Yes, we came here to climb.
So this place really is that famous, that well-known all over the country.
This place is amazing. One of the best places I've ever climbed.
So you're getting ready to spend the day climbing?
Yes, we are. We're going
on these sandstone, the red sandstone rocks.
Yep, we're going to go to one of the corridors back there.
And then what are you going to do? Are you ever going to make it in to Vegas itself?
Maybe for like a day, but I'd rather be out here climbing than in Vegas.
They're hiking down to the rocks. They're going to have a great day. And look at the size of these rocks that they're going to be climbing today. Absolutely spectacular and very red. Now this really puts it in perspective. We just waved goodbye to our group of rock climbers as they headed down the trail getting ready to climb, and now we've come to this huge outcropping of this red sandstone, and you got to have good eyesight to even see it. But if you look right over there, there's a little white dot on the side of this huge group of rocks here, and that little white dot is a rock climber climbing up this beautiful red sandstone on this beautiful Nevada morning. Now that's an adventure. This is interesting. School buses going by, bikers going by, tour buses going by. Yeah. The momentum, the activity picks up as the day goes on.
Oh yeah, another hour or so, all the parking lots will be full and there'll be people out all over the trail.
How many people come here every year?
Over 1 million, just to this little section of the NCA.
Over
right
1 million visitors in this park a year.
Yeah.
And how big is this park?
There's 200,000 acres. And it goes way beyond what you can see south of here and way on the other side of these mountains to the north.
So all of this is part of Red Rock Park?
Yes.
Okay, we're ending up here. We got a whole group of people, and you're with Red Rock Canyon.
I am. I'm Janice with the Interpretive Association.
So what do you interpret? How do you tell this story? This is a huge story.
It is a huge story. Well, I tell it the best I can, and we bring the group out here to let them know a little history about Red Rock Canyon, a little bit of the culture, and the flora and the fauna. Today's a beautiful day, and I'm just kind of describing some of the plants to them and so forth, and the geology of the area.
And this group is from?
UNLV Elder Hostel program.
So
They're from all over the United States.
Really? Is
Yep.
anybody from Vegas?
I grew up here.
You grew up here. You're
Actually.
from Vegas.
Yeah.
So the locals know about this place.
Yes, but it's still so beautiful.
Do you appreciate it? Do you love it like you should?
I do. I say it's the frosting on the cake. Las
Uh-huh.
Vegas can be the cake. This is the frosting.
Good morning.
Huell Hasner?
Yeah.
Wow. Hey, how are you?
Nice to meet you.
I love your show.
Where are you from?
Huntington Beach.
What are you doing here?
Enjoying this.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It absolutely is.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, it's an incredible day. And we went up this canyon here. Hiked
Good
up till we
morning.
found water.
How you doing? Another Californian.
Yeah.
Wow.
We got to get away from the strip.
Well, that's literally what we're doing too.
Yeah, it's beautiful out here. We come out here every time we come.
Really?
Yeah, you caught me kind of out of breath. Sorry.
Yeah, well, that's okay. So you come for the strip and then you come out here for the nature.
It's absolutely.
We come more for the nature than we
Yeah,
do
I
the
would
strip.
say so.
Yeah.
That's the side attraction. This is the main attraction.
That's a place to sleep and eat.
Yeah. This is a place to
enjoy life.
Remember who you are.
Around us that you can't see from here, this is eventually going to be like an island.
An oasis.
An oasis for recreation and just for the preservation and conservation of these species that live out here.
Because basically Vegas and the surrounding communities are literally building up right to the edge, right to the border.
Right on our doorstep.
Well, that's bad news and it's good news, because the good news is that this is going to be here for future generations, and this is always the way it's going to look. And no matter how big Vegas gets, it's always going to be this quiet right here. So that's what we're going to do right now, is just look at this and listen to the quiet. We're ending up our road trip. Once again, we're just a couple of miles from downtown Vegas and the Strip. I'm standing here with, introduce yourself to everybody, Jay.
Hi, I'm Jay Nichols. I'm the General Curator and Acting Director for the Springs Preserve.
The Springs Preserve, and this is kind of what we're looking at, part of it right here, this beautiful facility that's just been open a couple of years. What is the Springs Preserve all about?
Well, the Springs Preserve was built by the Las Vegas Valley Water District as a tribute to water in the desert. We live here in the middle of the Mojave Desert, and water is the most essential resource that we have. And the idea behind the Springs Preserve is to educate the public to how important it is to conserve our natural resources, and in the desert, water is number one.
To educate, to celebrate. And we got here about an hour ago, and boy, we ran into about 600 school kids leaving for the day. They had been here all day. You've got all kinds of things for people who visit this place, young and old, to enjoy and to learn from.
They go into our museums. The building behind us here has history museums, and also it has an interactive gallery that talks about water use and conservation in the form of video games, and the kids just love those.
Now, do people in Vegas appreciate water like they should, or is that what this facility is really all about, to help them understand?
Well, the facility is here to help people understand, and there is a growing appreciation for how scarce water is in the desert.
Now, what are we looking at right here? Why are we standing here? This is a beautiful thing right here.
Well, it's not a golf course. This is our outdoor amphitheater, and we have events here all the time. Last weekend we celebrated Earth Day, and we called it What on Earth Day, and we had vendors covering this whole place in tents. We did face painting. We had toilets on display that were low flush toilets. We had electric bicycles. We had all kinds of things, solar powered lighting, and you name it, we had it out here, and we had 2,000 people out here just having a heck of a good time.
Things are blooming in the desert, and that's part of what Springs Preserve is all about, too. You have this whole, well, look at this over here, this beautiful, is this like a botanical garden set up here?
Absolutely. We've got about 8 acres of blooming desert plants. These are all desert plants. That means they use less water than most botanical garden plants would. They have been designed by nature to use less water. Therefore, they can survive in the desert with less care.
So people come out here and wander through the garden and get all kinds of ideas about things they can do in their own yard, in their own home, to conserve water and celebrate the desert at the same time.
Absolutely. We call it Water Smart Landscape, and we teach classes that are free to the public to come in and learn about how to create beautiful flowering garden at their home that uses very little water.
Look at this. This is spectacular.
Well, this is our cactus garden.
Oh my
And we have all types of cactus, from the Joshua tree to saguaro cactus, barrel cactus.
Flowering, these are yuccas, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
Wow.
We have some very unusual cactus here from different desert climates around the world. We've got the little gold barrel cactus.
And I love your piece of sculpture right here, the big watering can.
There's another element that that has a dual purpose. We have a little amphitheater behind it, and the watering can is also the ticket booth.
Well, we're ending up our visit here, and Jay, I actually think that this spot right here is probably the most historic spot anywhere in Las Vegas.
I couldn't agree more. This is the place Las Vegas was born. This is the site of the big spring. There are a number of springs that bubbled out of the ground 10 to 12,000 years ago. This was the largest spring, and this was the source of water for the early settlers and early Las Vegas.
Now, when you say the big spring, this one was kind of a special spring over the years for the community?
Yes, this spring, the flow here was so high that people jumping into the water could not sink because they were buoyed up by the force of the spring and could not literally sink to the bottom.
So this was like a big swimming pool.
Exactly. This was a place where the community gathered. They would have picnics here. They would have square dances on the platform that used to be over the spring to protect it.
Wait a minute, is this what all this old wood is?
Yes, all of this lumber was a structure built over the spring in order to keep cattle and animals and people out of it later as the area became more populated and it became the gathering place of the community.
And they would have square dances on a platform over the big spring.
That's correct. Because of the evaporation of water, and everybody knows about evaporative cooling these days, that this was a nice cool place to picnic and have a dance on a summer's evening.
We're not ending up right here by chance. You wanted to be right here to talk about a juxtaposition that's going on here.
Yeah, to me it is the most interesting fact that if this spring had never occurred and we did not have this fabulous source of water for the early settlers, that over there would not be there in all likelihood.
The stratosphere wouldn't, well, modern day Vegas wouldn't be here.
No, it wouldn't. And I personally have been able to sit in the restaurant that as it rotates in the top of the stratosphere, drink a martini and see the Springs Preserve from there.
So it's not that long a distance, and it's not that many hundred years when all of this kind of comes full circle, kind of ties together.
Not at all. The city of Las Vegas was founded on May 15th of 1905, which is a little over 100 years ago. And all of the ruins we see here for this and the stratosphere are such a wonderful contrast to the lifestyle that people used to have to live over 100 years ago. There were wooden pipes from this spring that carried water to the first citizens of beautiful downtown Las Vegas. It is such an unusual spot to think that just 3 miles away, that there are people gambling, eating, drinking, enjoying themselves, completely unaware that right over here is the birthplace of Las Vegas and where it all started thousands of years ago.
Well, that's it. We've come to the very end of our road trip here to Las Vegas, and we're ending it up here at the Springs Preserve. And right here, this is where those original meadows were, with all of the bubbling water, the water that gave Vegas not only its name, but its life. And look at this juxtaposition again. Here's what's left of the old meadows, and there's present-day, modern-day Vegas. Boy, have we had fun. We have seen so much. We have learned so much. We have met so many nice people. And along the way, we have stayed true to our stated purpose. And that was that when you come to Vegas, you don't have to go just to the Strip, just to the casinos, just to the shows. There's another Vegas here as well, and that's the Vegas we have visited and learned about. A Vegas that you can share with your friends when you go home. This was a Vegas that doesn't have to stay in Vegas. We had a road trip that we can tell everybody about. A road trip to Las Vegas, Nevada. This city filled with history. And most of it, well, all of it, starts and continues with water. This picture right here says it all. The past, the present, and the future. Well, hello everybody, I'm Huell Hauser, and who would have ever thought of the Vegas water connection? Vegas is where Vegas is because of water. I think we've all learned something here. And if you'd like to go on this Vegas road trip again, share it with family or friends, or perhaps donate a copy to your local school or library. Well, it's available on DVD. All you have to do is call 1-800-266-5727, and we'll be glad to send it to you right away. Viva! Viva! Las Vegas!
Road Trip with Huell Hauser has been made possible by the Automobile Club of Southern California.
Wherever you're headed on your next road trip, the Auto Club knows the territory. For travel tips or comprehensive destination information, as well as booking your next family vacation, our website is a great first stop on any journey, no matter how far away your destination may be. Through all life's travels, we're always with you.